Hey everyone, happy holidays. I'm taking a break from the pod this week to do less work and climb more. We'll be back the next week like normal, and 2026 is shaping up to be an absolute banger year with amazing new guests, collaborations, and just general awesome stuff that I feel so privileged to be a part of. This week, I'm pulling one from the archives, an absolutely amazing episode I did with Sean Bailey about 2 years ago. I thought it was a good time to revive this one because Sean has been on a tear lately. He got the coveted second ascent of the mysterious V16, Arrival of the Birds. He opened up a new gym in Tokyo. And just like you, I've heard rumors of other things that I hope we get to hear more about in 2026. Happy holidays, everyone. See you in the new year. Welcome to the Testpiece podcast. This podcast is about all things high-level climbing. How to go from good to great. I'm your host, Joshua Horsley. I've been climbing for over 30 years. We recently updated our Patreon, and now you get exclusive content from the guests that you love. You get your episodes before everyone else, and they're ad-free. Try it out now at patreon.com/testpiece with a free 7-day trial. Okay, let's start the show. All right, Sean Bailey, welcome to the podcast, man.
Yeah, what's good, dude? How's it going?
Dude, I'm psyched. I'm psyched to catch you in Las Vegas. When we last chatted, you were in Bishop, and we were trying to talk, and there was like construction going on. But now you've got a nice house. You're chilling in Vegas, but it's always tough with you guys who are professionals, like flying all over, just catching you with good Wi-Fi. So yeah, man, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, I'm happy it worked out, and there's no one standing on my roof at the moment making loud noises.
Yeah, the Bishop motel hang is not really the glamorous hang. I mean, it's better than camping in the ice cold, really dry buttermilks, but yeah, those motels kind of not so fun. But yeah, dude, Sean Steezy Bailey. I love your nickname. I wanted to know where you got that nickname, dude. How did you didn't name yourself? Someone came up with that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't know exactly the inception. Yeah, I'm kind of trying to run away from that one at the moment, but yeah, back in the day for sure.
All right. Well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring. I like it because I have like a lame nickname, and I just thought that was cool because you definitely do have a style. I don't know. Me and Tim were talking about how whenever we see you climb, you make things look easy. That was my number one question from all the other people I asked. I'm like, oh, what should I talk to Sean about? And it was, how does Sean make everything look so easy? Does he find it all as easy as it looks? So I don't know. I think your nickname's cool, but sorry to bring it back up.
No, you're good. No worries. Yeah, I don't know. I think it mostly comes from I just really appreciate efficient movement, and I try to climb as efficiently as possible and always look for the most efficient way for my style and my body. Like, I feel like everyone has different strengths. Like, my strengths are a lot in my hands and my positioning and like my ability to create like momentum in an efficient way and to stop momentum. So I kind of use those skills and try to find my most efficient way through everything with kind of those tactics.
Yeah, me and Tim commented on our last pod watching you do lucid dreaming, just the way that you grabbed that infamous, just heinous pinch and yarded through it. I don't know. Maybe I know lucid was. You said it was one of your bigger projects, so I'd love to dive into that. But were we right where it looked like you could really own that pinch? And most of the people we see on lucid, I don't know, I want to just say like they kind of just move around it versus really using it. What did it feel like doing lucid? What did you think of that pinch?
Yeah, it's interesting for sure because that hold is so weird. It's like no other hold. Some tries it would feel like the way I wanted it to, and then the next 5 tries I couldn't use it at all, and then it would feel okay, and then couldn't use it at all. So it was hard to kind of get a good understanding of it and like how I wanted to take it and like what made it feel better some tries. But yeah, I mean, the try that it went and the previous day, I had some, probably two or three tries on the last move where it just felt like perfect. And I was actually like pretty tired in the session too. So I really felt like I could pull on it while I was tired. And then that next session, I came back and I think first or second rip from the ground that day, I got up to that pinch and I felt like less tired than I had, the previous day. And it felt the way I wanted it to feel. So I kind of knew it was like go time at that moment.
Yeah, you were talking about how you're really into efficient both creating momentum and stopping momentum, and I'm curious about the kind of classic move on Lucid is that grabbing that pin, going from that pinch and that undercling to that slot, but you're not a super tall climber, and so your move from that like lower tooth into the pinch looked a lot more dynamic, and was it harder for you to like, how did you time that like big move up to like such a bad hold? I feel like it's a good example of your ability to both create momentum and then stop it too.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know. That's a good question. That was one of those things that I just kind of learned through muscle memory. Um, yeah, sometimes it's hard for me to like articulate why things work because it's just like I'll shut my brain off sometimes and just let my body do the work. That was one of those situations for sure. But yeah, I think Lucid's a really interesting boulder because you're right. Like I think it's a good equalizer. Like taller climbers can get to the pinch without having to be as dynamic. And I think they have like a lot more space in between their arms when they actually get to the pinch, and the feet are like in a little bit of a more comfortable position. But then a shorter climber is like going to be lighter more often than not, and might feel better on the hold. So it's a cool boulder for that reason because everyone's kind of got their crux on it. Like it's hard no matter what, but it's hard in different ways for like different body types.
That explains why maybe it's so iconic. Yeah, I didn't mean to just dive right into Lucid, but I don't know, I just like that problem, and that video was just mind blowing when I saw you do it. And you also mentioned last time we talked that maybe it was one of your longer projects. How long did it take you? Yeah, I mean, it didn't seem like it took you that long. Are you now switching into doing more projecting stuff?
Yeah, well, I guess it was like one of my longer bouldering projects, or maybe well, I don't know if it's my longest, but yeah, it took me 5 days to do. For me, like, yeah, most boulders I've done in the past have gone a little bit faster than that because I think I've spent a lot more time kind of working on the sport climbing projecting side and less on the bouldering. But now I'm kind of diving more into bouldering, so just kind of trying to figure out how to bring what I've learned in sport climbing to bouldering because I mean my longest sport projects like well undone like 60 days and something I did like 30 days, so I'm a little more like knowledgeable about how to spend a long time on a sport route.
Whoa, yeah, 30 days. Well, 60 days. It's a lot longer. What was the 30-day one?
That was a bibliography. It might have been a few less, but it was 20 to 30 somewhere in there.
Oh man, I got to hear a little bit about that. What pulled you to that climb? That's a really iconic one in Seiyus that I feel like it's well, maybe not maybe your generation's biography. Like, I really think that's cool that Magos named it bibliography because, it's nearby. It's kind of got a similar ring to it. But yeah, where did that go? How was that experience?
It was good. Yeah. I mean, as soon as I saw footage of it, I wanted to do it because biography to me was like the perfect sport route. Um, the rock's beautiful. It's mostly pretty comfortable. Climbs amazing. And bib is like just like 30 feet to the right. And the breakdown's, very different, but it's still on a lot of that really good stone. And it's just a few levels up. So it was something that I like really wanted to do ever since I saw the footage of it.
When did you do, I'm guessing you've done biography. When did you do biography? And then how much later did you do bibliography?
I think I did biography when I was 20 or 21. So bib was like what, 4 or 5 years later.
All right. I totally blew this. I was supposed to intro you more. I mean, I assume most people know who you are, Sean, but you can already tell if you've been listening that we're already talking about some of the hardest climbs in the world, some of the coolest climbs in the world too. Like what an awesome thing to get to test yourself on bibliography, lucid. But you've also had massive success in the competition realm, multiple lead World Cup wins, bouldering World Cup win. So just wanted to kind of get that out of the way. I assume that everyone listening knows, but just wanted to remind everyone, yeah, Sean, you've climbed a bunch of good stuff. So before we go too far down the rabbit hole of those incredible climbs, I didn't know a ton about how you started climbing, but you kind of surprised me when you said that you'd been climbing for like 22 years, which if I do the math there, somewhere around like 5 years old. Like, how did you even get into climbing?
Like
yeah.
Well,
okay.
my
Math
parents,
good. Awesome.
Yeah, yeah, math's good. Yeah, my parents both climbed when I was growing up, so they got me into it pretty young. I didn't climb a ton when I was that age, but I joined like some youth programs at the climbing gym, Vertical World Climbing out of Seattle. And then from there, I joined the team there when I was like 12 or so. And then it was kind of on, like I was pretty dedicated from then on, like 12 till now. So I'd say I've been climbing seriously like since I was 12, but dabbled before that.
I mean, that's quite a while still. That's cool. Your parents climbed it. I don't know. I'm trying to bring that to my kids. I think there's something great about the parents bringing into the family. So Seattle, Pacific Northwest, I was kind of curious. Did you get outside when you were young? Like what crags did you cut your teeth on when you were younger?
Little Si and Smith Rock were the two big ones for me. I was more focused on roots when I was younger. And those were the two spots that I think I probably grew the most as a rock climber. I mean, ever since I was, 14 or so, I when I was younger, I was in school and stuff, but I would make sure to spend every weekend I could outside, and I'd go to the crag, like little size, like 30 minutes outside of Seattle, and then a 30-minute hike. So I'd head there after school some days. So I was always kind of trying to put a good amount of focus into rock climbing too, since a pretty young age.
Yeah, because that Vertical World team is, I mean, it produced a bunch of competitors, and I mean, clearly with your time in the World Cups, you also did competing. I'm just curious, man. Like, what were some of those Smith Rock climbs that you remember? You made me think of my first 12A was Heinous Cling, and that was a long freaking time ago. But
that's
a long
awesome.
time ago.
That is awesome to hear.
You got any ones that stick out in your head when you were a kid that you're like, oh, I totally remember doing that. That was a big breakthrough for me.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, actually, Rudy Ruana, Drew's dad, he really helped me out when I was younger. I was like I was actually pretty scared of falling, which is like kind of lame to say, but it was the truth. And Smith it's sport climbing, but it's one of the boldest sport climbing crags around. So he kind of sent me on a pretty good program to get my head good. I think the really memorable ones for me were Scarface was the first one, because I remember seeing it like when I was 15, and I said, man, I really want to do that someday. But it felt like so out of my league. Like, and I wasn't as dialed in rock climbing, dialed at Smith Rock. So, I was climbing like probably 13A or so outside at the time. And then within that year, it's like I was just chipping away. And then almost exactly a year later, I sent Scarface. And that was like a pivotal moment for me, because I really felt like I had not mastered, but was like well on the way to understanding sport climbing, not, getting so heady and all of that stuff. So that was one. And then I think actually full heinous, you bring up heinous climb, full heinous was one too, because that thing is super heady. If you've done it, it's like, it's runner at the top. And I always wanted to take the victory whip from the top too. So that was like also something I did, and I was all psyched up on it. I mean, you end up like at the second or third bolt of heinous, which if you know that thing, that's got to be like a 70 or 80-foot fall, something like that.
Dude, that's huge. That's a really big fall from the top. Yeah,
for sure.
I think that I when I did heinous cling, I was probably, I don't know, I was probably like 10 years old or something. And I remember now when I go back and got psyched on climbing again more as an adult on sport climbing, I remember how terrified I was. And when I think about Smith, it's like I had good reason to be terrified. Those falls were huge. I mean, they're safe, but it's just kind of funny how if you go and you climb at Kalymnos or something, and there's just a bolt every 5 feet, or you climb the gym, I do think that that's something that I miss from sport climbing, is that kind of, I don't blame you for being scared. I'm actually curious what Rudy did to kind of help you quash that fear.
He knows the crag like the back of his hand, so he kind of knew the good progression of routes to try, and it was just like every single route was like pushing my limit a little bit more, a little bit more. Like I remember when I was trying to do Scarface initially, like I climbed on Dreamin' a few times, which is just to the right of Scarface, but it's got a very similar slab, like same run out. Those run out slabs in Smith can be pretty scary. Like when you're looking 15 feet below your feet is the last bolt, and you're on like a 5-degree slab, you're kind of not that psyched a lot of the time. But yeah, it was just really just progressive, like building a pyramid, all the classic things that we know to do. But he had a good idea of which ones were the ones.
Yeah, so many people skip through it. I like hearing about stories from guys like you about the first 512, or I think, and Scarface is like 13C, I want to say, and
14A.
Oh, my bad. What's the 13C? Maybe it's Rude Boys or something. I don't know.
Rude Boys is another amazing one.
Probably been about 25 years since I've been there. But I just think it's cool because I think people forget that along that journey, you get stuck at different grades, or not even stuck, just like that your dream goal is a 14A versus that's a long ways off from the 15C of bibliography. But everyone has to chip away and build that pyramid. So, and even hearing that you were scared of some falls, although dude, I think I'd still be scared to do full heinous. Like I don't think that ever goes away.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it definitely, climbing in Smith gave me, because I agree, like you said in the past, that you like those kind of headier sport routes where it's a little more spaced. I'm the exact same way. Like I find a route way more, it's just a more fun, full value experience. If like, even though you're sport climbing, you're like, damn, I'm like pretty high above the bolt right now. I don't know why, but that's lasted for me. Like I really appreciate that stuff.
Yeah, me and Tim are always saying make climbing dangerous again, but I don't know. That's kind of like fake half the time. It's not that dangerous. But well, so you said Smith, you definitely did not say Leavenworth, and so I know you were doing more sport climbing. When did bouldering kind of come into your purview?
I think around the same time. I just had spent a lot more time sport climbing. That was kind of like my specialty at the time. So I was bouldering as well, but significantly less. Like I went on a bouldering trip maybe 1 out of every like 5 sport climbing trips or something like that. But yeah, like Leavenworth, Gold Bar, all the Washington stuff, Squamish a little bit. Just all the Pacific Northwest crags, which in my opinion, honestly, if you kind of grow up climbing in those zones, you become a pretty well-rounded climber.
Dude, Smith Rock, very different from Squamish granite and very different from that featured Leavenworth granite. It does, although boy, it also makes you good at finding the right conditions, because all those places get hot and cold and rainy and too cold. I don't know. Yeah, it's all over the place there. So I'm curious, you kind of hinted at this earlier. You projected Lucid, but by projecting you meant 5 days for one of the harder boulders in the Pacific Northwest. Well, I guess we're not Pacific North, in on the West Coast, in all of America. Let's face it, that's one of the harder boulders.
Word.
Yeah, despite that V16 grip. Anyways, you talked about that time you spent on bibliography, and I'm curious, what did you bring from that projecting world on sport climbing into the bouldering world?
Yeah, this is actually something I've been thinking about a lot because I think there's a lot of tactics that sport climbers use that can be really beneficial to boulders that boulders maybe don't use as much. Um, not everyone projects sport routes the same, but I had a philosophy from pretty early on to like really beat routes down to the point where when you actually send, it's like not that hard anymore because you've trained on it so much. And it's pretty easy to train on sport routes. You can just break it into sections and then just huck laps, do the section again, do the section again. And it builds this kind of specific endurance that can let you do things, pretty quick and not by accident a lot of the time. So I try to bring some of that into bouldering, kind of that same philosophy of trying to, not let something feel like it was an accident. Like I want to feel like I'm prepared and then I send because I am fully prepared for that thing. I think in bouldering, it's like easier to kind of get into the mentality of like, oh, I did the move. So now I'm going to try the link. As opposed to like, no, I'm going to like work this until it's like not that hard for me anymore. And some people do that really well, but I think it's a less used tactic maybe.
That's interesting to think about dialing something in when it's only a few moves. Like Lucid really is just a handful of hard moves. Do you you talked about kind of getting that muscle memory? Do you try to do a move a bunch of times? Because one of the other things of bouldering that makes it difficult is that skin and just difficulty. You may only be able to do a move 2 or 3 times in a session, if that, and it can kind of like beat you up. Like, is there any way you can use Lucid as an example for that?
Yeah, I mean, Lucid was definitely different. It was, I think, actually harder to find a way to use that tactic, but I still tried to. On Lucid, what really the reason I think I sent it and sent it decently quick is because on my previous session, it was like kind of a harder work session. I was trying one of the classic links that people do is from what is it from the crimp and the shark tooth and do the last two moves, which feels like kind of funny because getting into that is actually not that hard. But it's a link that a lot of people try, I think. So I tried that link for, most of the session, beat myself up on it. Skin was like pretty blown by it too. And then to finish the session off, I went to that, the last move and I was totally dead, but was able to do the last move like twice in a row. And that was like super confidence building. Cause then in my mind, I was thinking, okay, like if I get up here, I'm going to feel better than this. And I know I have decent consistency on the move. Um, so I think stuff like that like that building confidence can be super helpful. Which obviously, people do that in all styles of climbing, but I think sometimes the way people do it in bouldering is a little different. In sport climbing, it's like, for me, a lot about repetition.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that style of thinking. Well, if I can do this move even when I'm blown out at the end of the session, I got this. There's some kind of like mental help there. Do you something that I see in sport climbing a lot more is there's a more relaxed posture. There's a more breathing opportunities that gets taken. Sometimes even right during a crux. Like, do you find that you tend to breathe more than others when you're bouldering, or take a moment to kind of like calm down? I'm not really saying this the right way. It's just there's this kind of the intensity of a sport climber, even in the middle of the crux, usually looks like dialed down at least a notch compared to that kind of absolute aggro, like battling through those two moves to get to the top and bouldering. Do you see something like that, or are I just way off in left field here?
Well, I kind of feel like in sport climbing, there's a lot of different flows that can be effective. and everyone's got different flows that work for them. And I think, a lot of what makes a really great sport climber great is their ability to kind of switch between different flows depending on where on the route they are and kind of what it requires. So I think that's a useful tactic in bouldering too. I think something shorter like Lucid, you're not thinking about that quite as much, but a lot of the harder boulders these days are getting longer. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to kind of play with speed and intensity to change the efficiency. Because like the way I see it is, if you climb, faster with a little more intensity, your speed's going to be lower. Sometimes that's actually more efficient than trying to climb it as flowy as you can, because it slows the whole thing down. So I think on the longer boulders that can be helpful. Like on Grand Illusion, for example, I felt like really like I was sport climbing it. Like it was all about good flow, good efficient movement, like not trying to power through too much. So the speed kind of goes down, but I think the efficiency was worth it. Um, until you hit the crux, then that crux is like you just have to try hard. So making that flip switch, I think, is one of the harder things to learn in sport climbing, and can definitely be helpful in bouldering too, depending on the boulder.
Do you have any tricks or style or just yeah any tips for people to both turn it down and turn it up when they're sport climbing? I feel like a lot of boulders, when they tie in, they don't know how to chill when they need to chill. And similarly, it seems like sometimes sport climbers don't know how to really ramp it up as they head into a crux. Do you have anything special you do for that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I learned that all through training, honestly, when I was young, and a little bit less through execution, actually. I mean, trying to execute definitely helps you dial that in from a performance side, but I think the training is where you get the repetition, um, and the muscle memory for different climbing styles and flows. Um, so, when I was like 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, I was doing like 4x4s on a rope like 2, 3 days a week. So it was just so much climbing. And in doing that and spending so much time on the wall doing, massive amounts of volume, I think I learned a lot about how to be efficient in different sections, because you just have a lot of time to play around. You can try things different ways. Like sometimes I do fast lap, slow lap, or slow lap, fast lap. So you start to really understand the breakdown of a single route. Like if you climb one route, 100 times and try it every single possible way, for one, you're going to climb really efficiently on it. But for two, you're going to understand how, every style of climbing affects you on that route, which I found really valuable when I was younger.
That's interesting. Damn, I like that idea of climbing the same route a lot, and really, it's like there's these different levels that you peel off, where it's not just learning how to do the route. It's like as you start really dialing in, you dial in the efficiency, and then you learn something else from just spending time doing that same thing over and over again. Yeah, that's something that you talked about before. I didn't realize how into training you were. There's so many pro climbers that I talk to that do not train at all or train very minimally. And it sounded like training was something that entered your life. Well, I think you said around 12, when you really started taking
Mm-hmm.
it seriously. I was just kind of curious what those early days of training look like, and also maybe how it changed compared to today.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot for sure. When I was earlier, it was like a lot more about volume, I think. I think volume can be really good for kids because it's a little lower impact for one, but also you learn so much about climbing by climbing. Um, since I was young, 90+% of my training has been all on the wall, which I think is super valuable because I think, in my opinion, you can tailor actual climbing to almost any muscle group that you want to work in climbing, unless you have a pretty specific weakness. So it's always been, on the wall stuff, but I think the volume over the years has gone down, and the intensity has started to increase quite a bit.
Have you ever done any off the wall training?
Yeah, I mean, I've lifted some weights a little bit here and there, which can be fun. Yeah, I've tried hangboarding a little, but I don't really totally believe in it. I think campusing, like, is the closest to off the wall training that I did a lot of. But even that's still, climbing movement, I think.
God, it's crazy to hear that you don't hangboard. I mean, I just started experimenting with hangboarding now, like 30 years into my climbing, but it's just surprising because, I mean, I would say you're known for having some of the strongest hands in climbing. There's not even a question there. There's more just like a damn. I'm surprised. It's interesting to hear that you don't even hangboard, and yet we think of you as having some of the strongest hands. And I love that idea of just volume on the wall. So, like, do you do structured programs? Like, do you write anything out, or how do you think about structuring your training?
Um, Yeah, well, my coach, Tyson Shaney, he structured everything out for me when I was younger. And then, by the time I was like 15, 16, it really started to become a process that we worked on together. So I think, for a long time, I've been dialing in my own training and trying to understand it. But initially it was just throwing stuff at the wall. It was like throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And uh, yeah, just experimenting, I guess, would be the best way to put it. In doing that, you find kind of what works, and by the time I was like 17, we would write these whole programs out, and then we wouldn't throw them away, but we would have it in our minds like this is what the plan is, but then have the kind of the looseness to take a day by day, which I found really valuable, and I still do, because I think it, if you're too rigid with your structure, you can be missing out on sensation a lot of the time, and you're not as aware of how you feel day to day. So we always try to keep a little bit of looseness in there, and we could ramp a little more some days, switch a day out, take an extra day off, like really tailor every day to how you feel on that day, which I think is valuable, because it lets you get the most out of every single session, as opposed to being like so attached to a schedule that you either overtrain or undertrain, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I brought this up because of what we were chatting about before, where you thought it was way more efficient to not be too rigid in your structure. And it really stood out in my head too, because I was thinking about how when people just follow a plan from a very young age too, how they never build that awareness. Like they don't really know, like, oh, today is the day I need to push it. Or, you know what? Today I shouldn't even be here. And just developing that intuition is kind of a lifelong pursuit. And I just thought it was cool when you pointed out the efficiency there, that if you follow a plan too closely, it's either you're wasting your time because you could have been going harder, or you're doing too much and you're kind of blowing it there too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think experimentation there is like the most important thing. It's a little frightening to experiment, but it's really helpful, because you have to push too hard to know what too hard feels like. You have to undertrain to know what undertraining feels like. So if you don't feel those sensations, a bunch of times, you're not going to be like aware of them. And the more you feel those sensations and the more you try to be aware of them, you can start catching them sooner. Um, so I think it definitely helped me dial in to now where I feel like, not the most dialed, because I think your body changes and training has to change with it, but I do have a pretty decent idea of like how my sensation relates to my training. Like, I find a lot of people are pretty metric based in their training, which can be um, it can be helpful for a lot of people because they can see progress. My sensation is like, or my feeling, I guess, is it's all based on sensation. It's all based on feel. It's not based on anything quantifiable, I guess, which has its pros and its cons. But I think one of the biggest pros is that it can be efficient a lot of the time if you get it dialed in.
Well, whatever you're doing, it's working. I usually don't dive into this training stuff too much because I think everyone is so unique, but I just couldn't resist like knowing that you have extremely strong fingers and hands, and I think everyone out there wants stronger fingers and hands. You know, people are always like, oh, maybe Sean has some like secret thing that he does that only he does and he'll share it. But it's like, it's never that. It's never that.
Yeah, I wish. Just hard work.
Well,
um,
yeah. There you go. There's the secret sauce. Well, dude, one of the things that you said of that I thought was really interesting was how when you first started traveling for all the World Cups, how you would see all these different styles of people training, and that people trained differently all over the world. And I don't want to put words in your mouth. Maybe you can say it better, but it kind of sounded like to me, your conclusion was that in some ways everything worked, or, you know, there was lots of different paths to success.
yeah, I mean, I would put it as, I think there's such thing as wrong training, but there's no such thing as right training in my mind. A lot of people have like made completely different things work. Some people have made something really structured work. If that works for you, that's awesome. Some people have made something super metric, analytical work. If that works for you, that's awesome. It's just about kind of fine tuning what works for you. Cause honestly, you can approach it from a million different angles and become one of the best out there. You know, it's fascinating for me to see like how people train in Slovenia versus how people train in Japan. It's like two super contrasting points of view, which for me is giving me the freedom to honestly continue to experiment, continue to try new things, because I have a feeling that kind of anything can work if you dial it in the right way.
Dude, I got to ask a little bit about Japan because there's always a bit of mystique there and the climbers that they make and B pump. I know you've spent a decent amount of time there. What's that scene like, and how does it compare to what we're doing here in America?
Yeah, it's different, man. It's cool. It's the resources there are you know, maybe second to none, I think, in terms of setting. That's probably the biggest thing that they have over the rest of the world right now, in my opinion. There's just a really big concentration of hard boulders in the gym that are, you know, still technical, still allow you to learn about movement, but allow you to train really hard just by sessioning on them. And I think one of my biggest takeaways from the first trip to Japan is like, wow, people here, they just session. That's all anyone does is session. So it's kind of like what a rock climber does. They're just doing it in the gym, which makes it a little more tailored to gym climbing because of the, you know, the grip styles and things like that. But, you know, it's really a focus on trying hard boulders and then trying to execute those hard boulders. So it's like process focused and sessioning focused, which I think is cool. Like now that resonates with me really well because that's what I've been having fun doing. And is kind of like what I'm trying to work on is, you know, getting better at that projecting process. So it's nice to see that you can actually get like really fucking strong just climbing.
How hard are those boulders? I mean, there's always this like black tape, and what does that really mean? You're one of the best boulders in the world. Are there boulders in that gym that shut you down? Which, you know,
For sure.
I guess the reason why I ask is also, see, that's really interesting because, dude, I would say if I took you to any gym in America, it would be unlikely that there would be a boulder that would shut you. That's like tape, not like some spray wall thing that we make up, you know, which is fascinating. So they are hard. They're actually hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's a big difference. I mean, honestly, like this is gonna sound like I'm tooting my own horn, but in the States, it's like it's rare that I fall on a boulder. I feel like in gyms a lot of the time. Um, so yeah, it's a big contrast to going from a place like that to, you know, going to Japan where the black tapes and B pump, those are V17 more often than not. Um, it's like the hardest bouldering there is. It's in a different style, you know, it's gym style and it's B pump style, which has its own flavor, but it's hard bouldering. Um, yeah, it's pretty nuts. Like if you clean out the B pump gym, you are, or Ogi Kubo specifically, you're in a pretty good spot. Like you're one of the best out there for sure.
Are the average climbers there really strong? Zach Gala, when he was on, made a comment just about how he wishes there was harder setting in America because he thinks that that kind of can stifle people's growth by having, if you put, if the hardest gym or if the hardest boulder in your gym is V10, what's the odds that a V12 climber is going to come out of there? And I think he has a good argument there. And so I'm wondering, is the average climber pretty darn strong that you see there?
For sure. Yeah, I completely agree with that idea. I think like community is why they've gotten so strong in Japan, and having these kind of these hubs of gyms where like all of the strongest people climb, and then any kids coming up in that gym, they're seeing the hardest climbing from day one. So they know what it looks like and they know it's possible from day one. Um, I think it really, it, it makes the potential limitless. The philosophy there is like, if people are sending all the hardest boulders, then the hardest boulders aren't hard enough. So that gym's actually, every single year, that gym is getting harder. It's getting more suited to the top climbers. And so if you see that, as a beginner, I think that can really help you grow to become a better climber, because it's like you're just seeing a way wider scope, like from the onset of it.
Oh, that was really cool. I love hearing that the boulders are getting even harder. Like, it's just mind blowing to think. It's like, well, you create these boulders, they do well, so let's give them the next challenge. I think that's such a cool shift. Dude, I gotta go there. That's cool. Didn't know we were going to Japan, but glad we did. Good to hear about it. On that traveling style of traveling over the world, something that really stood out to me is that you were kind of a trailblazer of this generation in the World Cup scene. And I know that you are just a competitor through and through and psyched to compete anytime. And I'm just kind of curious about what it was like when you entered the World Cup scene. I don't even know, like, how old were you? What year was that? Who else did you know there when you started competing in World Cups?
Dude, I don't know how old I was. I think I was 19 or 20. I
Well,
honestly
that
don't
long ago,
remember.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not even, yeah, fuck. Yeah, 19 or 20, I think, maybe 20. Um, it was weird, dude. It was awesome. It was just on a whim. Like on a whim, I was like, oh, I don't have too much going on, so I'm going to compete at nationals. And then I made the team, and that was like 2 weeks. It was like it was right before like the last entry to lead nationals. So did that, made the team, and was kind of like, well, I mean, what else am I going to do this summer? I'll go to the comps. And at that time, it was like there wasn't people from the States doing the comps really. There's some people bouldering more. Like Nathaniel had done, I think, one season before me. Josh Larson was competing in bouldering, but in lead, it was like something that no one was doing. So it was cool. It was super exploratory, and I was like either just on my own or with friends. I had one other homie one year come, and he competed too. But it was really like, and it felt like we were kind of just doing the thing and making it happen. And yeah, it was definitely one of my favorite times of my life for sure, because it was just so new. Like everything felt really fresh.
Yeah, I think people probably don't realize that Americans being competitive on the World Cup scene is relatively new. Like the last 5 years, we're seeing Americans place, get on the podium and do well. But that 10 years ago, man, I didn't even hear about World Cups. If I watched them, I didn't recognize any of the names. It just seemed like this thing that Americans somehow didn't do. And we were very focused on our nationals. And so I just thought it was really cool going there. And I'm wondering, what stood out as being different back then, and maybe what did you take back home, and how did it make you level up as a climber?
Yeah, man, it was funny back then. I'm just remembering now. It's like we we actually had a really bad rap at the time because not too many people were doing it, but it was pretty easy to go to the World Cups if you wanted to. So we had a lot of folks that just didn't really belong. Like they weren't competitive. They were going to the comps. So like my first season on the circuit, it was like, oh, like another American, like dude's probably going to suck. It was, yeah, it was just a funny time and kind of meeting everyone on the circuit and, trying to get kind of into that community when I was just like rolling solo or rolling like with one other person. Um, but yeah, that first season was, it was super informative. For one, it made me realize that I got it, that I could be successful. I had, my first final that year. I got fourth place in Villars in Switzerland. I had some semifinals. I had a lot of progress, but also just got to see like what the strongest dudes looked like. Because I hadn't seen that so much before. So I don't know if I necessarily learned anything specifically, but kind of going back to what we were talking about Japan, just seeing that level was like, oh fuck yeah, like that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. I want to be that good. So it definitely it gave me a fire when I came back and started training for that next season.
That's awesome. I didn't realize you placed fourth in your first season. I think that's a big deal. I don't think people realize how different that venue is and traveling and doing so well. Curious
I think I was sleeping in a car that season.
Is that your pro tip? Sleep in the car. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember if it's that or the next one, but we rented a car and just like, that was the casa for like a month and a half.
I just gotta tell you, as a old man, you will always look back on that and just be like, damn, that was so cool. When I was just a kid, I started traveling all over the world. I didn't know anyone. I was like by myself. I did stuff like sleep in a car and then compete on the world stage, and just, I don't know. That's cool, man. I freaking love that story. That sounds so fun. I'm psyched for you. But you kept going back and you got better, and now you've won multiple World Cups. Did the whole scene change? Like, when did people start joining you, man? Like, when did you look around and like your teammates were also vying for the podium?
Yeah, like second and third year in it started to become more of a thing. We had, a few really good seasons, and then by like my fourth season, it was really starting to happen. We had a lot more structure, and then kind of for the States, it was like as soon as the Olympics became a thing, that's when a lot of structure came in place, and we kind of always had a filled out team. In my memory, I could be a little bit off, but that was kind of how the direction went.
Yeah, the Olympics definitely made its mark here in America. I don't know if you want to go into the Olympic stuff, but something that I found really interesting when we talked earlier is I was like, oh, Sean, like, did the Olympics mean a bunch to you? And that's typically the response from other people. They're like, yeah, dude, I was in love with the Olympics since I was 8 years old. And your response, which just to me showed how much you love competing, was more just like, well, this is what everyone is training for. This is what people are going for. I want to compete too. Like, I want to be part of that because that's what people are focusing on. And I thought that was just showed that you love competing, man. Like, just fundamentally deep down, that's something you enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny. I honestly kind of have like a dislike for the Olympics. But not in general, maybe, but for climbing specifically. But yeah, it was like it just became the biggest goal for everyone. So if that's what everyone's training for, that's what I'm training for at that time, because I was still pretty amped on competing at that time.
Dude, I kind of try to imagine you competing for speed. Like, how much of a bummer is it? You're like on the World Cup circuit, you're working on lead, working on bouldering, and then someone's like, oh, hey, have you seen speed? Because you need to do that now too. Did you train speed when you were maybe first going for the 2020 Olympics? Yeah.
No, not really at all. I the kind of the last month before the Pan Ams, because at that comp I realized that it was like pretty like really important at that comp, actually. But yeah, I don't know. I had an aversion to it. I didn't really like the format. I thought it was kind of stupid. I kind of, I don't know. I just want to try to do it my way. I was like, not, I was all into trying to qualify in some ways because it's what people were trying to do, but I wasn't all in the sense that like I really want to go to the Olympics. So I kind of just tried to do it a stupid way and my way. And that was focusing on my specialties, which is bouldering and lead climbing. And got actually pretty close to doing it just through bouldering and lead, but yeah, I think I was like one spot shy. Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't really interest me that much. I saw from a competitive side, like it was a part of the competition, but I like showcasing like my climbing and what I do and what I think I'm best at. And I like performing in that. So I just tried to push those things kind of as hard as I could while I was trying to get to Tokyo, but probably would have had a better chance if I trained speed for sure.
I don't know. I totally get that mental state though. You're like, this is a thing I do. I've trained my whole life for, and I love competing. And then if someone comes along and says, okay, you love competing, you're going to do bouldering, and then we're going to have you play a chess match also. It's like, wait, that's not what I'm here for. You kind of came out left field with that. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you want to keep on going down the Olympic track. It sounds like you're doing less competing now, and you've been just absolutely smashing boulders outside, just really, really smashing. You keep saying that you're getting more into the projecting mode. And first of all, I'm kind of curious. It sounds like you're heading towards bouldering and away from sport climbing. I kind of wanted to find out why you want to do more bouldering and less sport climbing.
Yeah, I think a few reasons. I'm psyched on bouldering right now just because it's been fun. But I feel pretty strong right now, like strong on boulders. So it's feeling like where I can, do the most work. And I feel like I'm on a good one and can keep that ball rolling. So I'm just going to try to keep it rolling as long as I can until it slows down. And then I'll probably transition back into a sport climbing mode. But I think if I wanted to sport climb right now, I'd have to go train in the gym for 2 months and just kind of lose out on some opportunities maybe.
I got to tell you, I have been talking to some people around you, and they're like, yeah, John has always been a great climber, but damn, is he on one right now in bouldering. So it's cool to see you. I mean, we just talked about Lucid a little bit. You spent some time in Bishop, and I was curious if there was any other climbs that you love doing, any other things you've been focusing on there. But yeah, what did you think of Bishop? Because it sounded like you hadn't really spent a lot of time there until recently.
Yeah, I hated Bishop.
What?
Until this last trip, I hated Bishop. I don't know. I had never gotten good conditions there. My skin always got completely fucked. I never had a good experience. But this previous trip, we had a perfect weather for like three or 4 weeks. It was an awesome time. I mean, all the classics there are kind of like must do's in my opinion. The classic 13s and /14s were some of my favorite boulders around. I kind of think of Bishop as being like a line place more than a movement place. Like you go and you see a line and you're like, I have to climb that, and then you climb on it and you're like, oh man, this kind of hurts or bites or moves a little funny, but then you kind of look at the line again and you're like, wow, that is I have to do that. So it was cool. It was a really fun experience. Climbed on Swarm. That was awesome. Spectre, amazing. Buttermilker Sit, amazing. So just kind of ran through the classics, and then kind of ended the trip, just started trying the Evilution low, and got that thing done too. So I was really psyched about that.
Yeah, I'm not going to let you just pass over that just kind of randomly at the end of already impressive tick list. So Evilution low, a project for a while that I don't know how often it had been tried. Like people have gotten on it, but it's kind of obvious. And yeah, you just casually mentioned to me that you did Evilution low. I'm curious, did you go direct or the original Jason exit?
You got to go direct, I think,
Gotta
because
go direct.
it's the straightest line, which is why I think it's really cool. It's like the first holds that you can grab on that wall, and then it's, I mean, the boulder meanders a little bit, but it's like it's a bullet all the way up. So yeah, did that thing, went direct, got all scared on the top of it, and it's fun.
How is that breakdown into the stand? Or I guess, guys, now it's the stand. Or I don't. Yeah, what are those first couple of moves like to get established into the evolution that most people know, where you have to stack a bunch of pads? And I mean, that's maybe people listening who haven't tried it don't realize, but evolution, you have to stack pads to get onto the start holds until you came along now and made it. I was going to say accessible for everyone, but no, I don't know what you didn't tell me the grade yet, but I'm guessing it's not going to be easy.
Yeah. Thinking it's probably V16, and maybe in those two moves, I guess, like the top. I don't know. It was a full value experience for me, but it's hard for me to tell if it really should affect the grade or not. Um, but yeah, I think it's kind of right around that V16 grade range in those two moves. The first move is this hard cross. Your foot rips way out, so it's a lot about maintaining tension. It's got like a really barn door kind of feel to it. And the second move to the start of Evilution is huge. It's a big one, and I think if you pull on to the second hold on the boulder and do that move in isolation, it's not so hard. But from the bottom, like doing the first move well enough, getting that second crimp, like Gaston crimp, good enough to do that next move is like the crux, and then that kind of makes that second jump the crux of the whole thing, I'd say.
Dude, Grandpa Peabody freaking stacked, just hard climb after hard climb, and really beautiful lines too. I think it's so cool that you got to just put your stamp on that boulder, because I mean, look, you're kind of right. It's terrible that you basically were just ripping on Bishop and saying that it's about the lines and not the moves, because I kind of agree. There's some good movement in Bishop, but I guess I'm more of like I'm an aesthetic. I like climbs that you're just like, what the fuck is that? I want to stand on top of that one.
I'm not really trying to like totally rip on Bishop. I like shit like that. Like, I don't mind if I really like lines. So I don't mind that style. It's cool, but definitely it's, a little more painful in some other spots, I think. It's dope.
Well,
It's a very its own vibe.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, sometimes I get into trouble because I think I sometimes rip on maybe like Colorado or something because the lines aren't that good, but then the climbing is incredible and it's more friendly. So, what you're always looking for is a combination of both, where it's tall, feels great to climb on, is beautiful, and in a good setting. I do think Bishop, actually, I take it back. Colorado has that in spades too. Like, you go to Lincoln Lake, you're in a hole, it sucks, and then you pop your head up and you just look around and you think, okay, you guys get some extra stars for just ambiance. So, but Bishop's
Sure.
a pretty spot, man. I like.
Oh,
like
it's beautiful. It's amazing. And actually, the Evil Low, we're calling it Devilution. That one climbs really good. That patina, it goes all the way up. All of Evilution. I know you've climbed on it. It's like some of the best, coolest holds in Bishop. So that was one of the friendlier, more aggressive in movement, but in holds, like surprisingly friendly one.
Do you get spooked on the top of something like Evilution? It's probably like a V7 slab. I don't know. It's not that tough. Like, as someone who climbs as hard as you, and like, what do you feel like up there? Is it scary at all to you, or are you just like, dude, I'm not gonna fall. This is just a V7.
No, yeah, I didn't get spooked at all on it. When I tried the top of Evilution just to get it dialed in for the start, I took the fall, or not fall, but I dropped off from like feet on the lip. So kind of the worst fall you would take. And it's super straight up and down. And I don't know, it felt very safe, like controlled to me, I guess, like not really too much of a thing, but definitely from the start, I was spooked, like not because I thought I was scared of the fall, but because I did not want to blow it, and I was super pumped, and it was cold, and I was completely numb, like I had no sensation, so it was very full value. Like I wanted to get it done that try, and definitely felt like there was a chance that I wasn't going to. So it was a really fun experience.
That's dude, I love that you transported us there. That's so cool. Just pulling off those burly moves and then being kind of gripped because it's cold and you get numb. And I dropped off the top a few times just because I didn't trust myself to grab the holds right because I couldn't feel my fingers. I was just, and so when I did it, I climbed as fast as I could just because that's that other element. I don't know. I love these boulders or these climbs that just have those extra layers of, that sticks in your memory because you remember,
Yeah.
oh, this is like the easy part, but I'm gripped anyways because of all these other factors. So congrats, man. I'm just grateful that you shared it with us because I wasn't sure if you were going to, and just my hands are sweating thinking about that boulder, and you adding the low is kind of something that everyone who's been in Bishop for a while has looked at, and thanks for getting it done.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. It is a special moment, man. Like that. That line's beautiful. It moves really well, and it's right there. It's like the first thing in Bishop. So the fact it's been a project for so long, and I was really, felt privileged to do it for sure. Yeah, it's an experience, man, because it's like everyone that comes, out of the milks normally walks through that boulder. We're trying it like late in the day. We brought like 20 pads out there to do it. So I'm already like a little stressed because I'm like, fuck, I really don't want to have to get all these pads out here again. I'd like turn around. I'm like, oh my goodness, there's like 30, 40 people out here. I like, fuck, like want to get this thing done. It's getting dark. Like, yeah, I don't know. Everything about it was like, it was cool. Just felt like a special moment for sure.
Awesome. Oh, I'm glad that Bishop now is a fun place for you. And I got asked about that project that you were working on with Jimmy. It just kept showing up on my Instagram pictures of you and Jimmy out in Bishop on some new thing. And yeah, what was that, or was what's that project, man?
Yeah, I think it's called the Sherman Boulders. I'm not 100%. It's kind of on the backside, like across the river. It's cool. It's really really hard. I think we were trying to stand mostly. I think we tried to sit as well. We did all the moves, but one. I think both Jimmy and I had different methods for that move, but both seemed like viable, and I think we both felt like pretty close to doing it. But I mean, we only linked like I think two moves max, maybe. So it's hard for sure, and it's pretty consistent with one kind of defined crux move, like 2/3 of the way up the boulder. Yeah, it'd be a cool one to go back to. It's like that perfect bishop stone. It's immaculate. There's actually there's no texture on any of the holds. It's that like that real crazy patina stuff. So yeah, maybe get back there at some point to try that thing again.
Well, I'm glad that Bishop still holds something for you. When you climb with Jimmy, I think of you guys as just physically looking quite different. Do you end up having way different beta? Like Jimmy's got to have a bit of reach on you. He's definitely got he's got some shoulders on all of us. He definitely has got some extra muscle. What's it like sharing beta with someone like that on, a project that's extremely difficult?
Yeah, it's super fun. Yeah, it's super fun. I think we, have different strengths, different sizes, different styles a little bit, but I see him as being super kind of all around climber. So a lot of time, like surprisingly, a lot of times what's efficient for me is efficient for him, and vice versa, unless it's, comes down to like a box issue, I think, of one box just fitting. But yeah, it's fun. I mean, I love climbing with people like that are so dialed and have spent so long on their craft, because it's just you learn a lot. And I see him as being one of the more technical rock climbers out there. So it's a yeah, it's just fun to try some new things with him.
I always like hearing people like you who are, at the top of their game, that there's still stuff to learn from the people around you. And I always think it's interesting when I hear about Jimmy and he's just this amazing technical climber. And just when you look at the guy, you just don't always think of him as being, I mean, he is an incredible technical climber, but he also looks like a freaking football player. And I just love that. I think that just shows so much about what climbing really is like when it comes down to it, is movement. And when you talked about how one of your specialties is generating movement the right amount, or it's generating momentum the right amount, and the stopping of it, to me, that's like this next layer of technique that maybe is hard for normal people to understand, where it's just like, oh, put your foot in the right place. So I don't know, just wish I had been there watching that that session and learning alongside you. Well, I know that you are now in Las Vegas, and I got another question from a mutual friend of ours about what are some of the things that you have gotten on in Vegas. Like, it sounds like you just ran through Bishop. Now that you got temps, are you doing something similar in Vegas? What's on your radar there?
Yeah, the main focus at the moment is this project, the Reddit TS, that I'm pretty psyched on. It's really cool. There's one crux move about halfway up that's pretty defined. Hardest move on the boulder by far. There's kind of two methods now that seem to work pretty well. There's a jump method and this hard kind of shouldering method. That's the main focus at the moment. Kind of past that, if I get that thing done, I'll probably go out to the Nest again, Kintsugi again, maybe dabble on Sleepwalker again. But yeah, just try to have a good time. Right now I'm kind of locked in on the project mode, and I think if I get opened up from there, I'll try to do some of the other classics that I've been wanting to do for a lot of years, but just haven't gotten around to.
Did Sean Rabitou make a video about that climb a long time ago? Is that?
I think about a year ago he made a vlog of it. Yeah, it's amazing. It's a really good one.
Well, I love seeing you get into this projecting mode and just set your sights on some of the most obvious projects that we have here and that are super, super hard. And I mean, you're already seeing success. We talked a little bit about the Olympics and you being excited about competing on them, but you unfortunately didn't qualify at the Pan Ams. And how is that shift in focus? Like, you think you'll ever go back to competitions now? Or are you just so psyched on, I mean, it seems like you're having a blast out there. So I don't blame you, but yeah. What's your thoughts on your future in the competitive realm?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably not anytime soon. Yeah, I don't see myself going back anytime soon. I've been waiting for this moment for kind of a long time. And the last 2 years, I kind of really saw it coming. So I just feel like psyched to be in this moment right now and be focusing more on rock, which has always been something I've liked to do, but it's hard to find the time in the comp season these days. It's like getting longer and longer, so it's like you got to be on for like 8 months, 9 months out of the year and focusing on plastic. And it's hard to like kind of find those moments to rock climb. So now that the focus is entirely shifted, it's awesome. I feel like I got all the time in the world. So I'm not seeing myself not being psyched on it anytime soon, I guess.
You talked a little bit about switching from training mode into performance mode. I don't know if I'm saying that exactly right, but you are clearly just out there bouldering on the hardest stuff you can. How you said you have all the time in the world, but how do you think about how long to stay out there working on, V16 plus before going back into training mode? And what do you think that'll look like now that it's not training necessarily for plastic?
Yeah, Yeah, I see myself outside until I get like properly shut down by something. Um, then I'll probably hit the gym again. But until that, I'm psyched. Um, I don't think the training for me is going to change too much. I've always kind of tried to keep my training to like a pretty all arounder kind of style. Um, I actually see like a lot of benefits to not necessarily training like comp movement, but to train, more competition style holds, like can get your hands a lot stronger, even though you don't see those holds as much outside. I think strong hands can really help. So I think in terms of like the specific training, the style is not going to change too much. I just will stop doing like the dynamic comp stuff because I don't like it and I don't need to do it anymore. But from like a day to day, I think yeah, it looks pretty similar. Just hard sessions in the gym.
Huh, you said you don't like the compy style movement. You do. I've seen you do very well on them. What what is it? Yeah, what is that World Cup style like that maybe you don't enjoy as much? Because I mean, you have won a World Cup in bouldering, so it's interesting to hear that from you, where you clearly have had success on that style. But what is it that you don't enjoy as much compared to doing the FA of Evolution Low?
um, well, I mean, the permanence for sure is cool, but also, yeah, I don't know. I think competition bouldering is like moved very far away from physicality and from just the classic tests, the classic bouldering tests. Like for me, it's always been how hard of a pinch can you use, how big of a move can you do on a crimp, how small of a crimp can you do, how bad of a sloper can you use. Like these classic core tests that I think are the most important, and I think that those kind of rarely to never get tested in the comps anymore. Like I mean, last season, it sounds crazy to say, but I'm pretty sure of it. Like there was more times that you had to turn around and jump into a two-hand palm press than there were times that there was a hard crimp boulder on the wall. So it's like we've just trended so far away from kind of what I consider classic climbing movement that it just doesn't interest me anymore.
Yeah, yeah. When I think of doing lucid, I definitely think of grabbing a little pinch, not doing a 360. Well, the reason I always ask these questions about the World Cup is because hearing from people who have won and done so well and are still a little disenchanted with it always surprises me and makes me a little sad. And it's I keep hearing this echoed where it's not quite the climbing that we grew up with. Uh, and I just am impressed. It shows you how much of a competitor you are that you still won. You still did them. So maybe the pendulum will swing back, but yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. It'll be interesting to see. I think setting right now in the World Cup is all about fads. It's like what's fashionable, and there's a certain style of movement that's super fashionable right now. I think my biggest kind of gripe with the season last year was like how often we saw the same moves over and over, and then how few times we saw the moves that I was psyched on. In my mind, if you have a comp that's like completely dedicated to this jumping style, that next comp, why wouldn't it just be completely dedicated to physical climbing? Then, you get to see everyone kind of showcase a little bit more of what they're about. Because, man, the scene is pretty stacked right now, especially in bouldering. It's crazy how many guys are strong and have different skill sets and could perform well on specific boulders. So I think I don't know. I just would have loved to have seen more opportunities for more people to find success, because I know that there's dudes that have trained fucking their whole lives for this thing, and then they never get to see any climbing that suits them. And that's a shame to me, because I think it shows kind of a bit of a failure of the setting in my mind.
When I think of good setting, I mean, if they're going to bring in that kind of more parkour movement, if it was more balanced and it was like, okay, you have to do this crazy move, and then to get out of it, you have to showcase your extreme ability in one of those classic metrics that you just described. I think I would feel better about that, where you have to pass all of those bars, versus just one bar. So it makes me wonder. You talked about what you consider some of the classic metrics in climbing. What do you think your weaknesses now? Like, do you have anything that you think if you were to go back in the gym that you would want to tackle? Because from where I'm at, it just seems like everything you grab looks like a jug and you're not really getting shut down. Like, do you have something that you've always struggled with in your climbing?
Um, I don't know. I like to think I don't have like real weaknesses, but I definitely see things that there's dudes that I'm inspired by that are better at things than me. You know, I look at Yoshiyuki as an example as like this guy who can just pinch so hard and can generate movement really just with pure physicality super well, which is something that I still can improve in. So stuff like that, I'm trying to get better at, and I think you know, getting better at climbing outside of my box is always like, you know, one of those things that everyone should be doing, in my opinion. But yeah, I'm always on kind of a path of trying to become as well rounded as possible. So train your strengths a lot and train your weaknesses a lot too. I think generating movement from positions where it's really hard to use any momentum, I think, would be one of those things that I'm still kind of trying to get better at, because I think I'm pretty good at using momentum, so I'm good at finding a way to do that. It's rare for me to find a move where it's impossible for me to use momentum, but when I do, I'm like, ah, fuck, I wish I was a little better at this just pure uh, kind of pure recruitment style of generating.
Yeah, I was trying to think of. I was going to ask you like, what is your style? But when I think about the climbs that you've even just ticked recently, you really do seem to be broad across the spectrum, even in that whole bouldering versus sport. So the way I'll ask that question differently is, what are you looking for? Like, what do you have your eye on? Is there any rock type that you always head towards? It sounds like you were impressed with the aesthetics in Bishop, but maybe it didn't exactly speak to your joy in climbing. Like, do you want to head back to Seus? Is that like, the style, or what do you have your eye on in this next year?
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm like we said before, I feel like pretty on one bouldering, so I think I'm going to try to hit every hard boulder around, see how they feel, see if they feel like they could go this season. If they can, stick around. If they can't, move on. So that's kind of the plan this year. I think next year is going to try to go into more of a sport climbing focus. I love limestone climbing, so try to get back to that, kind of back to the roots, and hopefully use some of the strength and bouldering skills that I got to try some routes with some harder bouldering cruxes on them, because I think that's still, man, I see, I don't think bouldering's stagnating. It's definitely people are getting stronger, but like to me, when I look at route climbing, it just seems like we're so far away from human potential. It's like it's just so easy to imagine stacking. Here's 515, add a V14 to the top of it. Okay, 515 V14, add a V13 after that. So it's like there's just these really small, obvious building blocks that I think are totally possible that I'd like to start playing with. And I think my style's kind of transitioned into more of a power endurance style. So I think trying to find some routes that are like that stack, multiple hard boulders on top of each other while you're, a little pumped is like a really exciting kind of challenge to me.
Oh, that's cool. It does seem like bouldering is not getting exactly that much harder moves. It does feel like some of the harder boulders we're seeing are almost heading towards like stacking hard boulders. So in that microcosm of boulders, that's happening. But I like what you're saying about just rope climbing could add even more. But I guess the thing, and we talked about this a little bit, like, how do you find that, man? Like, or maybe you already know of projects like it, it's hard to find the perfect route that's at that limit. Is there anything that you already
Yeah.
know about?
I don't know. There's a route I never tried, but saw like LeBlanc project in Oleana that I'd maybe like check out at some point. We have a route in Arizona that I'm incredibly psyched on. It's like the one we spent the most time on. That's kind of just that exact style where it's like a hard route into a really hard boulder, and you got to be able to do it pumped. Um, yeah, they're few and far between, man. It's like boulders tend to form, holds, I guess, and you can find consistently hard movement, but if you want to find 20 meters of climbing with consistently hard movement, no good rest, and no spots where it gets blank, it's like, yeah, that's a rare thing. So that's part of the reason I've been a little more psyched on boulders, because it's like there's a lot of good boulders, and I think there's maybe less good routes out there that I'm psyched on. It's like I feel like everyone's got a limited amount of time to climb at their peak, so I want to climb on just the dopest ones. So searching for that route, we got one, searching for another, and then bouldering in between.
Have you gotten to travel a lot in your career? I mean, clearly you did for World Cups, but do you feel like have you been to Norway? Have you been to Rocklands? Like, have you ticked off all these big places?
No, yeah, I got so many to go to, so I'm psyched to do a lot of classics too. Yeah, Norway haven't been, Rocklands haven't been, so those in the next couple of years are definitely trips I'm looking at doing. Hopefully Rocklands this year, maybe.
Yeah, those
Yeah, I'm
places don't
psyched.
suck, dude.
They're okay. I've heard. Yeah, I'm fucking psyched. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you want to dip into this, but one of the things that you put out there on your social recently, you had this just explosive Instagram post that I thought was just authentic and beautiful. And it came up after you didn't qualify for the Olympics, and just the way you, kind of shared your emotion of what it was like to train for that. And also you said that you trained really well, like you felt like you showed up, and that didn't happen for you. And, this transition of your career, I just wanted to give you space to expand on that note that I just felt was so well written.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate hearing that a lot. Um, yeah, man, there's a lot to unpack there for sure. Yeah, it was a stressful competition for me for sure. It was like, I got to this point where I really didn't feel like I was even competing to go to the Olympics anymore. I felt like I was just competing to like keep my career alive in a lot of ways. Because just how it goes, like you lose a sponsor, sometimes it's hard to find another one. Yeah, it was, kind of starting to look like that comp was like my ticket to like getting my career back on track the way I honestly feel like I deserve it to be and want it to be. So it's like the kind of the cooking pot of pressure was like insane, like nothing I've ever felt before. It's like kind of why I'm real psyched on rock climbing right now, because it was like not some shit I'd ever want to feel again, honestly. Yeah, I don't know what
Well,
questions do you have, I guess.
I mean, I'll just ask that about what it was like to perform under that pressure. It's crazy to hear that from someone like you who has competed on the biggest stages for years, that kind of culminated in that moment. And there's a side of me that's just wondering how you handled that. Like, were you able to perform well even under that intense pressure?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think so. I think I did my best for sure. I'm not dissatisfied with how I competed at all. It's like just how comps goes. But yeah, I mean, I didn't really sleep for like a month before that comp. It fucking sucked. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, it
Jeez,
is what
man.
it is.
How's it been transitioning into what you're doing now? Like, clearly you are on one, as we're everyone's saying. And how has this transition made you feel? And now that you're reflecting on that moment that was so intense, how do you feel about the journey that you're on now?
Good. Yeah, I feel good. Feel the pressure to make the career work, I think, and find alternative ways to keep this thing going, because end of the day my goal is to climb as much hard shit as I can, and I think I can climb a lot of hard shit. So yeah, just finding new ways to make that achievable still. But it's an exciting time because I feel like I have all the freedom in the world to do whatever I want. So that's the exciting part. The stressful part is like, I gotta build something for myself at this point. So just trying to kind of make that happen.
Well, you're doing it right now, right this moment. And when you went through your kind of the young Sean's ideas about what he wanted to do, and then you started listing off like what you have achieved in your career. Again, the thing that really stood out to me that we covered earlier is I thought it was so cool how you really broke the doors open for Americans to compete on the world stage. Like I know you've climbed unbelievably hard, but I just think there's something about that, about being the person to open that up for the rest of America, that is underrated. So I don't know. I'm just glad that you're moving on from that disappointing result and that you're out there. You really are climbing the hardest stuff in the world. And I can't wait to see what, what this year brings. I was talking to maybe I won't name who it is, but they were just saying that in some ways they were really happy that that you weren't now training for compy movements for the Olympics, because he thinks you're going to make that permanent mark on the climbing world in a way that you wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to. So, congrats on this next journey. And this chapter is just already off to an incredible start, man.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I've been hearing that a ton too. People are psyched I didn't make it, and I'm kind of psyched too. So, yeah, it's good. There's a lot of opportunity.
Hearing from someone like you who is at the top of the climbing game, why is there a struggle, or why is it tough for you to make ends meet when really you probably are one of the top climbers right now in the world?
Yeah, I mean, it just comes down to finding good brand partners. I'm lucky to have some now that I'm psyched on, but it is a tough thing to find. There's not a lot of companies that are in the climbing space, and I think a lot of times they have pretty specific views of what it means to be an athlete. And I'll say it like myself, like I know that my viewpoint of what it means to be a professional climber is different than a lot of people, but um yeah, just finding that right partner that sees it through the same lens, and you can work together, because at the end of the day you're working together. So it's like you have to have the same goals, and if those goals aren't aligned, it's not going to be a good relationship.
I'm curious. I know that you have an amazing Instagram, and I'm just kind of curious how you balance your time between self promotion and putting out this online presence, and like kind of what is expected of you from brands. Like, how do you split your time, and how much do they ask you to do on that front?
um I mean, I don't know. I don't think the asks are super unreasonable. A lot of the time, I'm just not a big fan of self promotion. I think there's other forms of media that I find a lot more impactful. So in that sense, like, social media is maybe like not the one that gets me going. But yeah, it's that side of things is not necessarily so hard to balance. It's just kind of finding what your followers are into, and trying to create content that gets you psyched and gets them psyched. But I think at the moment there's kind of like a divestment from other forms of media. It's like social is kind of the thing. It's like that's how you make the money, is by having a big social. And of course that's important, but the era I grew up in, it was like the things that got me psyched and the things that sold products to me was watching the best in the business doing the hardest shit in the world. I just thought that was so cool, and like it, it's why I bought products every time. It was like, oh, the Mojo short. It's like Chris made that short what it is today because he wore it when he climbed all the hardest shit in the world. So I think, I'd like to start trending more towards kind of that side of content, because I think it's impactful, and I think it can work well. Like, you can sell shit that way. It sold me kind of everything up until I started getting sponsored.
Oh man, yeah, Chris, yeah, Sharma definitely made an impact on all of our careers. I definitely remember like climbing in moccasins early on because Chris was, and I was like, these shoes aren't working for me; they're terrible. But Chris loves them, and he climbs hard, so
Yep.
maybe I can't do. Uh, yeah, any other inspiration from when you were a kid? Like, what are the things that really got you fired up and made you who you are today that you think maybe has been lost, like that style? Any other things that really jumped out in your head
It,
from when you were younger?
yeah, it was just those videos, man. It was like there used to be climbing movies. Those don't really exist anymore in the same way. I mean, there is a lot of good content on YouTube, but we had films back in the day. Those really inspired me a lot, and I know that there was clips that I just kept going back to and back to and back to because it was like so inspiring to me, and it was like I want to wear the same shit you're wearing. I want to wear the same shoes you're wearing. I want to. That's what I want. It's kind of that lasting impact that I think today is like we totally moved away from because social media is so fast. It's like quick consumption. And I don't think any of us really take the time to to look that deep a lot of the time. It's like we're just scrolling. But man, back in the day, that lasting kind of content that I kept coming back to. I mean, I had like 20, 30 videos that I just like I watched over and over and over again. And it's like that's fucking what I want to do, you know? That's the thing.
Something that I think we've really lost is having these, I don't know if you want to call them like characters. It's something I think we were talking about before too, where it's one thing to have self promotion be part of the job. Of course, you got to maintain an Instagram and everything. But this idea that brands could help athletes find their niche, like this is who you speak to. This is because I mean, dude, I'm sorry, use your nickname again. You are Steezy Bailey. Like you have a very clear style, and I always wonder if there's something brands could do better that leverages each unique individual and makes them into something that is better. I don't know, more differentiated compared to what's now, where it's like, well, what'd you tick? Okay, like great, like we saw that for 3 seconds, and that's not how it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Sharma definitely has a style to him,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just helping people find their niche. Like some people are really good at social media and they push product really effectively that way, and it works for them, and that's all good. Like that's cool. If that's your way, that's your way. I think it's effective too. But I think that other side of things, for one, I mean, it does get more expensive. It's like more expensive to make a vid. It's more expensive to produce that content, and then the views maybe aren't as high as you wanted them to be. But I've always had the feeling, in my opinion, that even if the views aren't as good as some other content, it's like they're important views because I think we all see content that we're super impacted by, and I think that stays in our mind for a lot longer. It's like there's a few ways to get through the noise right now, and like one of them is to push out a lot of content so you're always at the top of the you know top of the list on Instagram, and another way is to create content that people are inspired by and want to keep going back to.
Yeah, I like the idea of quality viewers or listeners because I do a podcast versus quantity, and this idea of being the lead domino and being the person that people look to that occupies that top spot that really creates the content and has that quality aspect versus just something really flashy that goes by in 5 seconds on TikTok. And I think that the internet actually kind of tends to end up having these extreme variances. Like there's room for 5 second videos and there might be room for 50-minute climbing videos. And I just love this idea that you're talking about bringing back this really deep, meaningful content instead of just, I don't want to be super negative. I'm trying not to just rip on like these random YouTubers that just, I don't know, it's just like the most, I don't want to say anything negative. I just don't enjoy it. It makes me sad. It's not the climbing that I think of. It's not when I think of you out there doing hard stuff and digging deep like that. I want that story, not just the 5 second send footy,
Yeah, I feel you. That's what inspires me too. I mean, I just want to make content that I would have been inspired by when I was younger. Like that's the dream. So I think yeah, it's we're in a weird time. It's definitely tough to find brand partners that are stoked to do that, and yeah, it's tough to get that content through a lot of the time at the moment.
Something I've heard that just blows my mind is that there's more and more athletes that are being dropped from brands and that they're actually bringing on more Instagram stars or YouTube stars. And I even like, wasn't there some shoe that just got made by I again, I don't want to rip on this YouTuber because like good for him,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
think he just, got a shoe made about him. And again, I don't even know how good a climber he is, but I know he's not Sean Bailey level. And it just makes me, it kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth where I'm like, oh, that's what we're doing. Like that's not the kind of climbing I'm doing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. I definitely get frustrated by it myself. Yeah, I think, by and large, like there's two reasons that you're going to sponsor a climber. Like one of them is to just give more awareness to your brand and to get more eyes through self promotion, I guess. But another big component of it is helping give brands legitimacy by saying, hey, we're the fucking best, and this is why we're the best. We're the best because our dude just did this thing, our chick just did this thing, like that type of marketing I think is super effective, and I think it's been slacked on quite a bit in recent years. I definitely like to see us trend more towards that side of marketing because I think it works, and I think that there's a want for it, even if you know not all brands see that.
Well, I think that sometimes brands forget about this flywheel of having people climb the hardest stuff in the world and make content that literally creates lifelong climbers. Like, some of those Chris Sharma videos you're talking about, you probably traveled across the world to go climb on that one you saw Chris doing. And then,
Literally, that's biography. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but sorry.
no, it's perfect because, and that's what happens is you get this generation that comes up and then they do bibliography, right? And so it's like you want this flywheel to create amazing climbers that are psyched, that then go and push a sport even further, that then get even more people psyched. And this is where I think that if we lose that flywheel, we hurt our sport in the long run to not support guys out there like you putting up things that will be iconic for the next generation. And I don't want to lose that foresight,
Yeah, I don't either. I definitely think that we're trending towards losing that a little bit at the moment, and it definitely makes me sad because I think, well, just like you, man, like that's why I got into climbing. So it's like to see that thing kind of start to disappear is like it's sad because it means that the next generation maybe doesn't get that, and I think it was the most impactful thing for me. Like, of course, I'd like to see the next generation of climbers get to not share that same experience, but a similar one at least.
It makes me think of how things were done back then where you fall in love with a guy like Chris because he's this whole persona that gets, it's not just the hard climbing, it's the try hard, it's the kind of wise mellowness when he's off the wall. And that's where I was saying that something I would hope that brands do in the future is, again, like Sean, you are some unique individual, and packaging that and help brands helping showcase who you are and what makes you special, because your style is going to speak to a certain type of climber. Just like while Chris is, of course he's Chris Sharma and everyone has a love for him. At the same time, Dave Graham was coming up, and
Hmm.
some that really spoke to some other people, right? Like, Dave and
For
Chris
sure,
are good friends and great, but they're different. And so does that
for
make sense to
sure.
you?
I know, I completely agree. I mean, I think that that's like one of the thoughts that maybe yeah some people have is that hard climbing is hard climbing, and I just don't see that way. I don't see it that way because I I got invested in climbers for their style and their personality, and of course the hard shit they were climbing. But it was like, it was more than that for me. It was like I really fucked with that climber, you know. So I think that that's still an important side of things. Yeah, I just think, you know, at this moment in time, a lot of the burden on promotion is on the athletes. It's like you're a climber, but you're also a marketer, and you're, you know, you have a whole personal brand, which you should, like, you should have all those things. But I'd like to see more brands start to actually use their athletes like as the face of the company, and start to help athletes like create, or I don't like the word athletes, maybe just climbers, but help climbers like create content that is going to be meaningful to both the brand and the climber.
Yeah, that's something that really stuck out for me when we were chatting about this before, was just like, dude, I'm psyched to work. I'm not complaining about doing Instagram. It's just like, help me craft my message the way that can be the most impactful for the community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the kind of meta theme on this podcast is this good to great thing. And the thing I always point out about people who are great, and we can use you as an example, we can use Chris and Dave, is that to be great, you have to somehow you have to find your own uniqueness. Like when you did biography, I guarantee you, well, I don't know, I shouldn't say this. My hunch is you did it slightly differently than Chris. Like just your way of approaching it, your way of doing, not even just your sequence, just how you climb and who you are is different. And so to me, that's what I love seeing is, and again, where maybe brands can help is showcasing the uniqueness of these greats in our sport. And like I said, I'd put you up there as one of them.
Oh, well, I appreciate hearing that. Yeah, I'm with you for sure. I think, you know, the atmosphere, I guess, has changed a lot. But even still, like that marketing strategy, it made a lot of these companies what they are today. So I think, you know, it is like worth kind of looking to the past a little bit, and like looking to what worked in the past a little bit, and not necessarily trying to recreate it, but at least trying to take some elements of that, and introduce it into this kind of new environment, because I think it's like effective.
Well, the pendulum always swings too far, man. It's just kind of how it goes, right? Like we get, people get obsessed with the TikTokification of climbing, and then you get these little reels that are popular, and then that I feel like that's part of the problems with World Cups, was that it's like, wow, this jump move got a lot of views, so we're just going to make it a double jump move, and people just
Mm-hmm.
get too far out. But I have hope that the pendulum swings back the other way, and I think that fundamentally, and I've talked to others about this, that one of the reasons why your post connected so deeply is that it's disappointing that someone of your caliber is struggling to make it so that you can keep on adding to the sport in the way that you did, that you do today. And I think that just, I have a hunch that when people hear that's where it really hits you viscerally, is you're like, wait, are you sure like Sean Bailey is struggling to make it all work? Because he's like one of the top guys. So that, I appreciate you sharing kind of some of the behind the scenes about where the struggles are. And I don't know, man, I think it's going to change because you're out there being yourself, doing your best. And it's a damn good job you're doing. So I'm optimistic.
Oh man, well, I appreciate hearing that for sure.
You said it well on that, on that Instagram post. It really was damn good, really raw, really authentic, just positive. And I think it's interesting how sometimes these pivotal moments, like, I have a hunch you're going to look back. I mean, shit, you already are looking back just a few months later and being like, man, maybe that was the best thing that happened to me. Just like I've had injuries where they seemed devastating at the time, and actually they kind of unlocked something new in me. And sometimes our path, it's never linear, right, man? It's always all over the place. But
For sure.
Jesus, you're doing well after that. I mean, Jesus, man, these last couple of months will go down in history. And I'm glad that you were willing to share some of those sends, because they're special. They're special.
For sure. I appreciate that. There's always a silver lining for sure. So yeah, it's working out in the end.
I mean, one thing that I thought was really interesting that you were talking about, that I think history has shown is a really positive in our sport is when athletes stay with brands for a long time and build that deep relationship that lets them explore the world, and you really start to associate a brand with a climber. And I thought that's just, I love that idea, and I love those long-term partnerships, both from the athlete side and from the brand side.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, one of the things I've seen, like my time in it, and, again, like I don't want to generalize because it's not every brand, of course, but at a lot of brands, I think right now there is like kind of a good bit of turnover. And I think, when that turnover happens, it can really change the whole atmosphere of the brand. So it can make it a little harder sometimes to stick with brands for a long time, depending on the brand, because you're not always working with the same people. So it's like you get on really good and you guys have a good plan, and then, you got to kind of redo that whole thing. So, one of the positives of that is, a lot of times the people that are in those brands do have some lasting impact and can help shape the direction. But, the negative of that is that, it's almost like a new partnership anytime that happens.
I've heard of athletes moving brands because of the athlete manager moved. Yeah, they wanted to stick with that person instead of the brand themselves, and it just shows you how deep these relationships go, actually, and that's what it should really be about, is finding that partnership that lets everyone succeed and excel. And again, that's that flywheel, man. Just figuring out something that works.
For sure. I mean, I've always thought that one thing climbing industry could really grow from is like continuing to use athletes when they're like kind of past their physical prime, because I still see like a lifetime pursuit in climbing as like a huge asset. And I think that there's trainable skills, and then there's things that aren't trainable. Like you can't train someone to have 20 years experience as a climber. So it's like if part of that evolution was like, you're at this brand for 15 years and now you're not just an athlete, but actually, an employee and helping shape the future direction. I think that could maybe, help be a bit of a guiding light for the future, and just kind of help things keep running more smoothly. Like, I think that'd be interesting because, we all know it's like none of us are going to have fucking 45-year whatever career.
No, Sean, climbing, lie to me. Just please lie to me. I'm getting old, man. Don't say that.
No, sorry. Yeah, you will.
Dude, look at Jimmy. Jimmy's like my same. Sure. Is about the same age. Jesus, he's
for sure.
Still on
you can push it. You can push it for a long time. Like, it's dope, but there does come a time when you can't anymore. And so I think finding a position for those people in brands, if they fit well, could be a huge asset. And I know some people are doing that and some brands are doing that, but I think that's underutilized in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I love that idea of you can't train someone. You can't, that you have to earn the decades of climbing experience. And it's something we talked about with Jared Roth, now the owner of Pusher, that I thought was really cool. He was like, but when you shape holds, it's like, if you've really climbed before, you bring something different. He's like, I went deep into climbing, and now when I shape, I bring those decades of not just kind of surface level having fun, but really deep love of the sport. And yeah, that has to be earned. And yeah, you're out there doing it. All right, man. I appreciate you diving into this stuff. I don't think it'll fall on deaf ears. I mean, sometimes I hope that the podcast can start the ball rolling for change. And I do know that this podcast gets listened to by some of the top people in the industry, not just climbers, but people working in the business too. So yeah, I know it won't fall on deaf ears. And thanks for giving us a peek behind the scenes. I really do appreciate it, man.
Well, word. Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity, and yeah, let's do it again. This was fun, dude.
Well, before I go, I want to see if you can distill those 20 years into a pro tip and give you a chance to plug something. I mean, you just talked about some amazing FAs, some amazing climbs, and I don't know if you got any media coming out, but there's that. And then, yeah, if you got a pro tip to send us away with, I would appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, pro tip, let's hit that. I did not think about that, but in this conversation, I have a good one. Honestly, I really do believe like always keep learning. I think that's what some people kind of fail to do is like every day try to learn. Don't ever slack on that because if you're always trying to learn about climbing, you're going to get better at climbing. And the more you train, it's like super easy to kind of get into routine and kind of forget about that part of the process. So yeah, keep that up and you'll probably get better.
I think it shows why you were willing to go to the World Cups and do something new, right? Like it's like, okay, this is different. And then you progress when you put yourself into those situations, but you have to have that mindset of this is an opportunity to learn, not just, oh, if I do badly, like then it sucks. You know, it's like, no, always learning, always learning. Thanks, man. That was good.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, you had one more question. What was that?
I was going to see if you had anything coming up to plug. I mean, you kind of mentioned that FA. It sounded like you guys were thinking we were going to call it Devilution. And yeah, any footage coming? Anything you want to point us towards that may come out in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, just stay tapped in for sure. I'm going to be trying to put out as much content as I can this year. So stay tuned. It's in the works, and there's a few projects that already have been shot and stuff, and are getting ready to go. So yeah, it's coming out. It's happening this year.
Well, make sure to link to your Instagram. You're saying how you don't do a ton of self promotion stuff, but your Instagram is good, man. Those pictures are good. Like you do a good job at it. So yeah. Anyways, just a little side note. Yeah, everyone should follow you to keep abreast of what you're doing. And yeah, psyched to see what's next, man. It's already been a hell of a last couple of months. So psyched to see 2024 and what you're going to put down.
Word, man. Well, I appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for the time. It was fun.
All right. Thanks, Sean. Until next time, man. See you next time.
Yeah. See you next time.
Head over to patreon.com/testpiece to sign up now. Patrons get their episodes early and ad-free. There's hours and hours of bonus content there to help you on your own path of going from good to great. Still not sure? There's a free 7-day trial for you to check it out. And to help the show grow, please share this episode with someone who would love it. Okay, see you next week.